Good morning, everyone. For Telesur, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. Thanks for joining us on From the South. This morning, our top story takes us to Peru. Very shortly now, the 2015 annual meetings of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank will kick off. Now, they will be ongoing until October 11th. The event will include a plenary session and discussion on global economy. This is the first time in almost 5 decades that the meeting takes place in a Latin American country. The IMF chief, Christine Lagarde, says China's economic slowdown should be of no concern to the world's economy.
The slowdown of growth is a phenomenon that was predictable, expected, anticipated, and we believe that it's a good.
Now, Colombia's government delegation at peace talks with the FARC rebels has requested another meeting with legal advisors to finalize the recent historic agreement on justice. Now, the agreement accompanied both sides' commitment for a final peace agreement before March 26 of 2016. The government representatives want to focus on several points they claim are undefined, such as extradition, kidnapping, and the selection of judges in a special court. The FARC leadership is not happy with this move. They maintain the agreement on justice is a done deal.
The story of the creation of peace is written by fulfilling commitments. The Commission of Legal Advisors fulfilled their word. We fulfill our word. We are still waiting for what was signed to be accepted without hesitation.
And while the FARC insists the agreement should not be discussed further and instead published in full, the government lead negotiator, Humberto de la Calle, disagrees.
There was an agreement embodied in 10 points, but for the longer document, we never ever accept that it will be a closed and unchangeable agreement.
The leftist Patriotic Union of Colombia took to the streets to remember the thousands of members assassinated in the 1980s, including their presidential candidate, Jaime Pardo. Our correspondent Natalia Margarita now with that story from Colombia.
They have always believed in a political solution to the armed conflict. Their party, the Patriotic Union, was itself the result of peace negotiations between guerrillas and the government back in the 80s. The violence from paramilitaries and security forces that would later lead to the extermination of this party has not prevented its survivors from struggling for peace.
That is the legacy the Patriotic Union has left, and now revised within another peace process in which we hope and struggle for the materialization of a peace project with social justice, of a fair, democratic, and inclusive peace.
The recent agreement on justice reached in Havana has particularly brought hope to the victims of the Patriotic Union that for decades have been seeking for truth and justice. That's the case of Marlene, whose son was forcibly disappeared in 2002.
I hope someone brings me back my son alive, but if he's already dead, they must tell me the truth. Where can I find him? Where have they left him? What have they done to him, and why did they take him? I wonder what I've done to be tortured in this way. I've been waiting for my son for 14 years, which is certainly a torture.
In the wake of the current peace process, truth has come as a pressing issue for the victims, not only for its importance in terms of healing, but also because it's the way towards clarifying responsibilities and preventing these kind of episodes from happening again.
The core of this peace agreement is the recognition of the truth, and the truth implied not just to know who was the hitman or the paramilitary that pulled the trigger, but also who financed, who promoted, and who gave the orders, which are the politicians, business people, and sectors of the military forces that were involved too.
The symbolic installation is aimed to keep in this country's memory the political genocide against the Patriotic Union. Each of these white shirts represent the 6,000 victims of the political violence against this leftist party. Natalia Margarita, Telesur, Bogotá.
We go to Brazil now. The conflict with students in the northeast of the country continues after a week of protests. Students and police clashed again at the Pernambuco Federal University. Only one person was injured while 2 students were arrested for disobedience. Police pepper sprayed the protesters after they claimed to have attempted to negotiate with the demonstrators. State Senator Edilson Silva said the students deserve a proper response rather than police hostility. Now we're going to take a quick glance at some of the other stories that are making world news headlines.
The Nobel Committee awarded this year's Peace Prize to Tunisia's National Dialogue Quartet for its contribution to building democracy after the Jasmine Revolution in 2011. The quartet was formed in the summer of 2013 when the democratic process in Tunisia was at risk of collapsing. Political assassinations and social unrest had the country on the brink of civil war. But, thanks to the quartet, the country instead took the path of democracy and peace they enjoy today. The Nobel Award ceremony will be on December 10th.
The Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided that the Nobel Peace Prize for 2015 is to be awarded to the Tunisian National Dialogue Quartet for its decisive contribution to the building of a pluralistic democracy in Tunisia in the wake of the Jasmine Revolution of 2011.
France launched a new airstrike overnight in Syria against an Islamic State training camp. The defense minister said further strikes will follow. France launched their first airstrike in Syria September 27 when they allegedly destroyed a militant training camp in the eastern region of the country, attempting to justify their intervention in the Arab country without Syria's or the UN's consent. The Minister of Defense Jean-Yves Le Drian expressed France's concerns over the Islamic State group. The threat for France is Daesh. In Syria, potential attacks are being organized. The training of foreign combatants is being organized, whose mission is to come and strike us here. France's enemy is Daesh. The Chinese government said it would not stand for violation of its territorial waters in the name of freedom of navigation. The statement was in response to Washington's plans to deploy warships close to China artificial islands in the South China Sea. China's Ministry of Defense warned the United States against taking provocative actions. They called on Western nations to take a responsible stance on peace and stability for the region.
I want to stress that China has always respected and protected all countries' maritime and flight navigational rights according to international law, but we will never allow any country to violate China's territorial waters and airspace in the Spratly Islands in the name of protecting freedom of navigation and overflight. We urge the related parties not to take any provocative actions and genuinely take a responsible stance on regional peace and stability.
A huge anti-Islam protest is planned for this Saturday in Australia, whose government officials are highly concerned over potential violence. Police were instructed to prepare for clashes between protesters outside a Sydney mosque. Last week, a teenage boy was shot and killed in front of the mosque after he had opened fire on an officer. This and other incidents had increased concern over further violence and retaliatory attacks against Muslims.
Now for sort of an unusual sports story, the Russian president Vladimir Putin scored 7 times in a hockey match to mark his 63rd birthday. Look in there, he doesn't look 60. He showed off his skills in an arena with his favorite sport in Sochi. He was joined by various government officials, former NHL stars, and, well, you might imagine his team did win 15-10 against a group of Putin's old friends. He still got it. He's like the president who never ever ages. Anyway, plenty more on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For Telesur English, I'm Cody Weddle. Have a great day.